All right, guys, welcome to Start by Scale. If this is the first episode that you're listening to, our goal is simple. We just want to talk to other entrepreneurs and we want to work to uncover the how to their success. And then we want to share that with you. And sometimes that how isn't always pretty, but we believe that you guys deserve to hear that as well. So we've recorded a bunch of podcasts so far, and we did most of these live, like in-person live, which is super cool. And we've released about 6 of them now out of the 8 that we've recorded. So we're bit by bit publishing them, releasing them out there. This episode, however, is pretty cool. It's going to be a different one. We're going to do this monthly. We're going to call this our monthly debrief. So this is our first monthly debrief. And this is us showing you behind the scenes of what we're doing, how we're doing it, and is it working? We want to build this podcast in public with you so that you can see kind of the inner workings of how the podcast world works and all the different things that we're doing. So today, super cool. John and I are together. It's going to be casual. We're going to kind of talk through this stuff. There's going to be some brainstorming, some like kind of working through some of the things that we've done or that we want to do live on this episode. We're going to talk about the monetization, views and stats, the format that we're using, tools and the tech that we have, and then any other add-ons that we want to do in the future or that we've talked about. And so we're going to keep it casual. We're going to break it down fully transparent, just kind of giving you all of the tools that if you want to launch a podcast, you could do that as well. So behind the scenes, excited to have you guys here today.
So we officially launched the first episodes and got the recordings done the very end of September. Mm-hmm. So October was our very first month of a full month of data and trying to start learning from some of the episodes we're putting out there. So I think to start out, we'll go right into revenue and the money behind everything. So obviously we're at $0 in revenue.
$0.
Yes. And we'll be kind of showing exactly when we figure out how to monetize. We don't really know as of yet. We've had a bunch of ideas. We've gone back and forth with a few things. And obviously we do want to monetize this long term and find different methods for that. But right now we really don't know how we're going to do that. And part of these episodes will be us also brainstorming and trying to figure out how we're going to actually monetize this at some point.
Yeah. It's like, because with a podcast, it's known to be harder to grow that audience, but then the audience that you do have are super loyal because like you're in their ear every day as they're driving to and from work or they're on runs or whatever, so they're loyal fans, and the goal is to take those true fans and figure out the best way to bring them further into our content, right? Because the podcast is kind of that gateway. And I don't want to say like, oh yeah, we just want to monetize our fans. Like that's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to build the brand, but like an ultimate goal for any business is monetization at some point. So how do we get there? How do we leverage the eyes, the attention to build things out of this, right?
Yeah, and I think that's a key point you just had there of like build things out of this. Like you said, we don't want to just monetize for the sake of monetizing. Like there might be sponsorships and ad revenue and things like that come, but ultimately we want to build some type of, whether it's a service or whatever it ends up being, that's going to be valuable for this community we're growing of other entrepreneurs and business owners. So we're trying to think of like things that we would want and things that would help really anything along those lines. And that's kind of the direction we ultimately want to go. Actually build something valuable and have a underlying business behind this podcast and what we're trying to build here.
Yeah. Like, so long-term, like that's what we're kind of touching upon right now is long-term, like having a community of these like-minded entrepreneurs, or maybe they're in that stage beforehand. They're wantrepreneurs, like they're not sure what their entrepreneur journey looks like, but they know that they want to take it. So we want to build that community of those individuals. At least that's like the target avatar right now, and have the tribe. And so what does that tribe look like? And one of those thoughts is all of these experts that we've had on each episode to bring them in and for them to share courses of their personal expertise with the community that follows us. So that's one long-term thought that we've thought of for like a future monetization, and then having like a whole ecosystem of services within that community.
Yeah, and the idea behind that too is like we don't want to just simply launch a bunch of courses with a bunch of gurus trying to sell stuff. It's really the idea was like, let's get people that are really running different businesses and are active in the day-to-day that really don't offer training and courses, and give them a place where they can actually teach what they're actually doing in their business today, and then match that up with people that want to learn that specific type of business or learn the lessons from that person. So that's kind of an initial concept we have of, and there's sort of some things out there like Masterclass and these other platforms, but they're not really geared towards entrepreneurs and these people that are in the day-to-day of their business. So that's one direction we can go with this.
Yeah, like look, kind of as you're listening to this, you're looking into what it is that John and I are building, and what we're talking about right now. Essentially, like we had this whole big plan. Like we've been talking about this for a year now of building out a platform like this, and over the year we've honed it in to a beta version of that, which is this podcast. And so this podcast is like that MVP, the beta, the 1.0 of building out that community. And so, maybe it will actually be built out. Maybe that's the end result that we have, but we need to start somewhere, and we need to test the waters. We need to figure out like what it is that everybody wants. And the best way to start with that in our minds was this podcast and bringing these guests on, and then using the content to put it out there and then direct, based on the reactions that we get from the viewers. And so that's where we're starting at, this like baseline beta podcast level, and we'll see if we get to a community platform or if it goes another direction.
Yeah, and I think that's part of what we're doing is we stripped everything down to like what is the very first thing we can do and just do today. And it was like, okay, let's get the podcast going. Start kind of finding the people that are interested in this type of content, of whether you're trying to start your first business or maybe you have one that you've started, trying to figure out, okay, how do we bring valuable information to those kind of people? And then, yeah, maybe it turns into a community, a training program, maybe there's a service, who knows what actually comes from it. And that's kind of what we're going to really be figuring out these next few months coming up.
Yeah. So right now though, like let's talk what do you think we could be doing right now? Cause we're not doing it. We're not doing any monetization right now. It's just been about getting the content out there. But what are your thoughts on maybe the first avenue that we could go to start making a little bit of money from this, and then, obviously putting that right back into the flywheel of the business? What do you think, like immediately what we could be doing?
Yeah. And I think even before revenue, I think what we're doing now is how do we actually make the best podcast episodes we possibly can? So we're both learning on the fly right now. This was our first round of like podcasts we've tried to host. So we're going to get into some lessons from that and some mistakes, some things that worked, but it's not easy to do. Actually, it was harder than I think I anticipated, but it's something we'll be able to get better at, and then figure out like how do we keep upping the level of what we're doing and make that much better, which then hopefully will lead to other things. But what were your initial thoughts on like what worked, what didn't work? What did you kind of learn with these initial episodes?
Yeah, man, like you're 100% right. It's way harder to have a really good flow of a podcast and engage with the guest and, like hit the points that you want to hit and not ramble or say stupid stuff. Like it's way harder to do that than I thought. Like I've been on a couple podcasts just as a guest, but then when you switch it and you're in the driver's seat and you're the host and you're like trying to like really listen to what they're saying, but then you're thinking about what you're wanting to ask next. And then, maybe they say like a really good, like that's going to be a great little clip for you, but like something happened, like you cut them off or whatever, like you mess it up. It's It's definitely an experience, and we were talking about this earlier. But the thing that I've noticed that's the hardest part for me is our theme, or our mission is to really uncover the how from these entrepreneurs and these experts that we're talking to, and it's so easy for the conversation to go another way, and to it becomes, you're like, I'm like chatting with them and they say something and I'm like, oh yeah, that was a great book, blah, blah, blah. And then we start talking about that book, and 10 minutes later, I'm like, oh crap. I still have so many things I need to cover with them. And we haven't even talked about how they've built their business. And so staying on track for me personally is the hardest part of hosting.
Yeah. And that's something we discussed actually right before filming this. Is one of our next steps is actually figuring out, okay, what do we actually do now to try, now that we know that that's an issue, how are we going to try and fix that? So, because I've noticed the same thing as a host, you have to kind of steer the ship and guide the interview and get to the next thing, but you also have to actively listen and also try to react to what someone's saying and kind of go with the flow too. So there's that balance of not being too rigid, but also we still want to get to the essence of what we're trying to do is keep this really actionable. So you walk away with things you can actually implement and use and get information that's really going to help the most. So yeah, so off the top of your head, what do you think we can do to now try and see okay, how do we keep these episodes really focused, or do we loosen it up and go in different directions? What's your initial thoughts to that?
Yeah. So one of the things that I was thinking about, like I said, our goal is to uncover the how, but it's not always going to be that tangible, and people are not always going to want to share the how, and so I was thinking, maybe it becomes a little bit of a pivot. Again, I'm this is live. I didn't rehearse this at all. I'm thinking as we go, but maybe it's not as necessarily focused on the how, but it's just getting the stories, hearing these stories from the entrepreneurs that are really in there doing it, because those are the people we're talking to, business owners that have started, that have bought, that are scaling their business, people that are in the grind right now. That's who we're talking to. And so maybe it ends up becoming more of tales from the grind, right? Talking to entrepreneurs that have started, that have bought, and that have scaled their businesses, instead of oh, okay, we need to get the how from every episode. I don't know. I want to know the how. I know other people want to know the how. But if I'm so focused on getting that from that guest every episode, I might miss a lot of really good points that we could make, valuable episodes off of.
Yeah. Maybe that's okay. Maybe you're saying, there's something to be said for inspirational stories almost. You get to see these interesting people, cool people that we're talking to, what they're actually doing. And in some cases there could be, that inspiration aspect of okay, this person, I resonate with this person, here's their story. And that kind of inspires people to take action on something. Maybe, it doesn't always have to be here's the step-by-step actionable tips you can implement right now. Maybe it's a combination of a few things, and it depends on the guest. But I think ultimately that's probably okay. But yeah.
We talked about even integrating entrepreneur failure stories as well. And I don't know if that will be as big of a hit, or maybe that'll be a little bit more clickbaity, but I do like that, bringing entrepreneurs on, that, I don't know, maybe they went back to their W-2 and because they bought a business and they had to file for bankruptcy, or they were over leverage or something like that. And for them to say hey, this is what happened, this is why it happened, this is what I would have done differently, and this is what I'm doing now. I mean, those are super valuable things. I've seen plenty of Reddit threads where people are super transparent about that, and I mean, there's 500, 1,000 comments under of just okay, what happened? Okay, what I have a business that's like this. What could I have done, or whatever, and people want to know that.
Yeah, I think there is. I know we talked about the failure angle a little bit. I think there is something there. Whether it's like it's just figuring out what it looks like. It could be interviewing people that have failed in some way, and then like there's lessons you can learn from that. The other thing that would be cool with the failure stories, I'm almost picturing like I don't know anyone listening to this, if you know Mr. Ballin, who does horror stories on YouTube, and he's blowing up. He's crushing it with his stories, and it's basically him direct to camera telling a story, or a scary story, or about some kind of real thing that happened. He does a really good job with those. Like there might be some way to almost have that style of video just focused on entrepreneur horror stories or failure stories of like, that's kind of like one guy broke down YouTube with there's like high effort content, and there's also like more like knowledge based content where it's very specific. So this is an example of like high effort. Like we would have to research, compile all this stuff, put it together, and make a really good video showing like the story of whatever company or whatever thing. That could be interesting. I think interviewing someone's probably easier, but that's I feel like everyone shows the wins and the successes. That's what we want to do with these episodes here too, is also show when things aren't working for what we're doing. So that's part of what we'll be breaking down as we keep doing these.
Yeah, I don't see why that wouldn't fit for what we're trying to do. Like I know we talked about doing those as like maybe shorts or like add-on material, but I think that would work if we found people that are like, hey man, like I'm not successful, but like I've really messed up, and I'm willing to share my story. I would bring them on. I would want to hear that, and it definitely makes for like a super clickbaity title of I don't know, he lost $100,000 and moved into a van down by the river because he bought a business and did this wrong, or like
those can work because there's so many people. I don't want to say like faking it, but I guess I will say that where it looks like they're doing better than they are, and like they put that persona on, but actually showing the real stuff of like things aren't easy. It's not easy to do a lot of things, but here's like the important thing is like reacting and figuring out your next step rather than just giving up when something's hard. So I feel like there's something there for sure of showing that to some degree and just figuring out how to do it.
Yeah. And before we move on to the next, like to your point on this, like that's exactly why we're doing this, because it's so easy. It's so easy to just like go with the program and try to pretend like we're crushing it and think like, oh, okay, because if we show that we're crushing it, people are going to want to crush it with us and hop on our bandwagon. Because that's what everybody does. Everybody puts up this front of like, we're making a lot of money. This is our program. We can teach you how to make that money. And the reality is that like 99% of people out there that are in the entrepreneur world are not crushing it like that. And so we're just like everyday dudes like everybody else, and we're trying to build something really cool, and we want to show people the reality of the build, and we want to bring people in through our podcast, through our newsletter, through our social media content, and just like be real with it, because too many people are not real with it. They're fake with it, like you said.
Yeah. So that's what we're hoping to do with these episodes, and then even the direction of the podcast, I think potentially showing all sides of things can be super interesting. Let's show a little bit of data from the first month. I think that'll be cool to kind of show, and I'll share my
speaking of
screen
reality.
for this. Yeah, let's show like 1 month into this, basically, slightly longer than that. And here's kind of what things look like. So our main platform that we decided to focus on was YouTube. Part of the reason for that is we start with the video format, and then we could break that down into audio. We are publishing the episodes on Spotify. We're then also using that one interview to get the short vertical clips for right now. We're doing Instagram Reels and YouTube Shorts primarily. So everything stems though from the actual core YouTube videos. So if we look at this here, this is our actual data from the YouTube channel. So we launched it like the very end, maybe the last few days of September.
Yeah, while we were at the conference.
Yeah, we were at the conference in Idaho for a self-storage event in September. That's where we filmed everything, and we pushed our first episode live. And now we have a full month of data. So we had 6,000 views, a little over 6,000 views on YouTube in the first month. A lot of those are short form views. And we'll look at like the short form versus long form. 71 hours of watch time. I think we were looking at that earlier. We just thought that was super cool. It's small in the grand scheme of things, but still
that blows my mind, bro.
Yeah,
like 71 hours. Like people that we don't even know are watching our stuff for 71 hours worth of that. Like that is, I don't even know what sort of like film series would add up to 71 hours. You know, like that's a lot of watch.
Yeah, when you start like really thinking about it, like it's a lot. And to actually get the channel monetized, you need 4,000 hours of watch time. So we're sort of first step at chipping away at that. Mm-hmm. And that's what I found is the hardest to get on YouTube. Like the 1,000 subscribers you need to get monetized. If you're just consistent long enough, you'll get there. The watch time though is always the hard part I found. So almost 72 hours. You can see subscribers. So the first month, there was a lot of people that we knew that we got to subscribe. October, there were still some people we knew in there, but still we added on about 39 subscribers. We lost 2. So ultimately, I think whoever those were, if you're watching, please come back.
Can we tell like what episode that was that we lost them on?
Yeah, I think we can. Yes, we can actually. So this is pretty cool. This breaks down all the videos and how many views we got, how much watch time, but this shows us added. Let's do this in real time here. Let's see if we can.
For those that are watching the YouTube version of this episode, and if you're just listening to it, I'll describe it. John's using Looker Studio right now, and it's super cool. So he's able to connect it to our YouTube, and then it like generates these graphs, and you can kind of drag and drop like any sort of template in there. And so once you connect it, it will show all of these analytics, and you can do this with so many other things. And John uses this often with his business.
Yeah. And this is one of the better like reporting tools I found. The biggest benefit of it is free. Anyone can use it. Let's do this too. Anyone that wants this template, just let us know and we'll give you a copy of it. And you could use it for your videos. If you have a website, you can connect your website to it, and we could show you how to do that. So either leave a comment or reach out to us in some way, and we'll get you a copy of this. So for the videos, it looks like the person that unsubscribed, how to overcome your fear to start. That was a short, I believe.
Okay.
It's interesting to see actually like dislikes too. Yeah, let's see, because we got 2 dislikes on that.
Really?
15 likes. Yeah, we don't normally get. We get a couple. You can kind of see it here.
Wow.
And we're actually looking through all the videos. So that's the only one I can see that removed. So how to overcome your fear to start. We'll have to double check.
They really didn't like that.
What that was about. We still added 2 people. So technically there was a net of 1 that subscribed from that.
Uh-huh.
And
I feel like it was like 2 people that were watching it together, and then like they really didn't like it together, and they're like, hold on, let me log into my phone. I'm going to dislike it. You dislike it. And we're both going to unsubscribe. Ready? 1, 2, 3. And they both unsubscribed at the same time.
Yeah, it's funny to see the breakdown. What's cool about Looker Studio too, you can like click on things, and now we can see like our most liked videos. So how to overcome your fear to start is actually our most liked video as well. It also
okay. Well, you lose some, you lose some. Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if that's going to be the case. Like, just the more traction something gets, you're going to have the people that don't like it as well potentially. So it'll be interesting to see how that progresses. And 19 moved. Oh, this was
that's Travis.
Travis, yeah.
Yeah.
And part of his journey.
Yeah, if you guys haven't listened to that episode, so again, if you're watching this, you can see what I'm talking about. But there's one on here. What's it? 19 moves, 10 kids. I can't read that. Journey of resilience and real estate. Yeah. So this guy, he's awesome. He's such a cool dude. His name's Travis. He has 10 kids. Like 10 kids. That within itself is incredible. And then he has like a $30 million real estate portfolio, and it's about to be a whole bunch more than that as well. And this whole time he's been working his W-2, and he's been building this on the side. So if you haven't, give that a listen, or at least listen to some of the shorts. He's full of nuggets. That's all he was saying was just like gems of short clip recordings.
Yeah. We knew like we were recording with him, we're like, oh, he's got so many things that are interesting and would work really well as short form clips. I don't even think we've published all the clips yet from him too.
No,
I think
yeah.
we have plenty more to grab. As far as a long form video, because obviously the shorts are the easiest to get views for. What we've been finding, YouTube will give the shorts 500 views in almost a couple minutes. And our theory is, and there's probably other people that actually know this, but is YouTube is testing the engagement behind the video. And we get these 500 views fast, and then the short dies off. So that's something we're looking into. Like, how do we actually keep those kind of engagement up where the videos actually continue to get views and not just kind of cut off at 500? So that's one thing we're going to be looking into with like the quality of the shorts now that we've made some. How do we actually like take that to the next level?
Yeah, it's like we're touching upon the right content that YouTube wants to boost, but then it's like it's not totally there. So it's like they pour a little bit of gasoline on it and it goes up to like that 500, and then we're watching the stats. It just kind of stays after that. So like what do we need on that to go to the 1,000 or the 10,000 or the whatever, like what's that next viral level?
Yeah. And those are like the kind of things we're going to try to figure out pretty much in real time as we keep posting these things. And it is interesting. The more like this is our first time, at least my first time, actually trying to like edit shorts from a podcast, because we're doing the editing ourselves right now until we have some revenue to bring someone on. But
running lean,
there's a whole art form of that. Yeah. We're going to be doing everything basically, and figuring out where to go from there. Now, what's interesting about the long form stuff? So our best performing one got 300 views. It was actually Kevin's episode. And one of our theories is just the title, like how to start a business while working full time. Watch time, it also got the most watch time, 17 hours on that one.
Yeah, I would like to say it's because of the huge following that I have, but that would not be true. So it's definitely the title, or it has to be like why else? Like everything else that we've posted, like it's all the same format. It has to be that title that really resonates with people, which is a good thing because that's who we're talking to. That's our audience. And so we hit the nail on the head with that one. And I think people want more of that,
Yeah. And like, that's something we'll see. Like I've heard, I can't remember who said this, but every like video sort of has like a total addressable market of like people that would be interested in it. And like entertainment videos are just massive. That's why like Mr. Beast and these other channels can get like millions of views, because there's just like endless people that could be interested in that. What we're trying to figure out the balance of is like, we're going to have these really niche episodes, like with Robbie, how to start a lawn care business. There's only a certain amount of people that are going to really want that, but we still want to do those because those are really relevant for, like, we want to be able to give people insight into very specific types of businesses. But then you have like this other tier here where it's more general entrepreneurship, which I think will be interesting for us to explore, like how to start a business while working full time. That way more people are going to relate to that than lawn care, but we definitely want to find a balance of both of those. I don't think we want to go completely in one direction, but we'll see where that goes.
I really, I like the way you put that. I've thought that, but I haven't ever heard that verbalized, because you're right. There's definitely like super niche episodes, and I'm thinking now of like my favorite podcasts, and there's plenty of episodes that I'm like, I don't need to hear that. Like, I don't really care about that. And then, one hits, I see the title and it's something that I'm interested in or whatever. And I'm like, oh, I have to listen to that. And so that makes sense. Yeah. Like there's super niche episodes, but then why we think that could have done really well is because it's pretty general. And there's a lot of people that are still in their W-2 and they're trying to start a business like that. That was like, we appealed to everybody that way.
Yeah. What was interesting about that one, we were watching the data from that after we published it. There was like 3 days where Google was ramping up, and again, 300 views, but it was just interesting to see going from 0 to 300 in a few days. We could see like the curve of the views starting to really trend up. So we were curious like where it was going to stop. And then at a certain point, once we got to about 300, then Google kind of capped it. And now it's getting like a view or two every couple of days. But it's just interesting to see how some of that works. And again, I think YouTube is kind of testing it, showing it to different people, seeing how they engage with it before I guess, determining how much reach to really give it. But yeah, topic wise, we'll see how, and maybe that's part of it too. Like some of the topics are geared at bringing new people in, like these general ones that are applicable to a lot of people. And then other ones are like, yeah, really specific. That's really going to help someone get that actionable takeaway that they can implement. So yeah, so I think there's going to be some interesting ways we can go with this.
Like we're definitely figuring this out as we go. But one thing that I think there needs to be a balance on is watching the statistics, right? So like what we're doing, but also not letting the statistics necessarily drive every bit of the content that we create. And if we believe that there's valuable content to share, we want to share it regardless of what the stats say, right? Because the algorithms are going to change, and we're going to get boosted, or we're going to hit the mark on something, and it would be really easy to just like lean into that and for like our focus to be on that kind of content. But I think if we have value to share, we need to share it, but also paying attention to like what's working and what's not, so there's a balance, and you can lean too far one way or the other,
Yeah, you can. And I think ultimately that's the stage we're at, is how do we actually make these things as good as they can be? Yeah. And then we could start and maybe this is the wrong way to do it, but then we could start tinkering with like, okay, is the thumbnail optimized? Is the title as good as it can be? Like those little extra things that really amplify it. But I feel like if we continue to try and make each episode better, bring more people on, do a better job doing the interviews and running the podcast, and the content is really good, then we have time to figure out like what are all these little additional things we can do now to really ratchet up the volume and get more people to find this. So yeah, we'll see where we go with that.
Yeah, I mean, like ultimately, if we keep producing this content and it's content worth listening to and watching, and we're bringing these people on, and we're networking with these guests that have been there and done that and like have connections, then like the connection with that guest is going to be so much more, like the return on that, right? The ROI on having that guest on is going to be so much more valuable than potentially worrying about a thumbnail for a week, and so focusing on the content and then building the network with these people that we're connecting with, and even the true fans that are liking or commenting or messaging us about this content, right? And delivering it to them, I don't know if that made any sense.
It does, yeah. And I think that's what we'll continue to figure out now that we're getting some data, we're getting some reps in too of doing this stuff. Now we can start to refine and figure out ultimately how do we keep progressing this. So one thing I think will be interesting too is, so we have this bank of 8 episodes that we're almost out of. So now we're starting to figure out, okay, we got to get new guests, and we're going to record these kind of like we're doing this one with the guests virtually. Mm-hmm. One of the things we're doing is just cold outreach to try to get guests. Like I'm messaging kind of people on LinkedIn. I know Kevin's using X pretty heavily to connect with people and some other methods. What I found so far with the podcast pitch, now that we're doing it consistently, we're starting to get people that are interested, even without a lot of traction on it. I think just the fact that, and I've done a lot of cold outreach for my marketing agency, and that's much harder to get to work. I found this podcast outreach, we're starting to get to the point like where we're getting some initial guests in, but we got to keep working on that of like refining our pitch to make sure we always have guests lined up here. What else do you think we could be doing there to get more people lined up to film with?
Pause on that. Don't mind me, listeners and viewers. I need to plug in my laptop before it dies. 1 second.
Yeah, before it dies out. I think we have a guest lined up for tomorrow that I'm going to be filming with. So that'll be interesting. I found her just off of LinkedIn. I think she liked one of my. I've been posting a little more videos on LinkedIn, and what I'm kind of doing there is anyone that likes or comments, I'm getting more likes than comments. I'm actually looking at their profile and seeing if they have a business, and then just messaging them right from there, right when they've liked kind of the video I posted. So we'll see how that works. I got one that said yes already, but that's kind of been my main method right now.
Yeah, what you were saying earlier, that I'm doing a lot through X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, That's my main source of networking because I post content there every day, and then I get a lot of engagement from kind of the circle that I work through in that way. And then as I'm growing, I don't have a lot of followers coming up on 600. And so as that grows, like the more people that kind of come in and I introduce myself to, I do the same thing. Like, we get talking, the subject of business or entrepreneurship or whatever comes up, and see if they're willing to be a guest or if they have a cool story that they're willing to share. And I'm sharing those even in like my tweets. I'm sharing those in newsletters, and then not everybody is down for an interview. And so I'm testing the waters and seeing if they're willing to come on. And for those that don't have a Twitter, I would say most of the followers or people that are listening to this probably have a Twitter. But if you don't, it is such a crazy good networking tool. And I never would have thought that because I've been using social media and involved in social media on like a business level through Facebook, through Instagram, all this stuff. But I would say Twitter more so than really any other. Maybe LinkedIn, but that's like really business. I think Twitter, you get a great hybrid of people that want to consume content, but that are also really willing to engage and network and grow with you and what value you have to deliver. And so a lot of what I'm doing is through there, and then I connect that to my newsletter.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. X is something I gotta try again. I dabbled with it for a little while, and then kind of fell off and haven't done a whole lot there. So it's something.
But you're big on LinkedIn. Like you've got a lot on that.
Yeah, LinkedIn, I've been picking up a little bit because I use it a lot for outbound efforts for my marketing agency because it's just like an easy way you can connect with people in your target audience. So I really like it from that standpoint. You could like proactively find people that would be a good fit to follow you and see your content and connect with them on your side. And then, which you could do similar things on X too. But yeah, it's something I'm working on. I'm also doing some in-person stuff. If I meet a business owner, like I was just at, there's a farmer's market I go to, and this lady owns this farm and also sources food from other farms in the area and has a whole business around that. So she's going to do an episode. I'm probably going to try to go to her and film it there, which I think would be cool if I could pull it off. So like things like that too. I'm trying to keep my eyes open for it. If I run into a business owner or walk into something. And most people I find like are pretty willing to do it. Like when I basically just told her like, oh, we just launched this podcast. We're interviewing like entrepreneurs and business owners. Would you want to come on? And she said yes. So now I got to figure out how to film that. But probably like what we did in Idaho. Just bring the iPhone and a microphone and see how that works.
Yeah, and actually, like that's a good point to touch upon really quick. Is the 8 episodes that we have, they were filmed on an iPhone and like a $25 Amazon mic because we knew we were going to be together at our self-storage conference, and we're like, let's just get a few episodes out of the way. Let's just see what we can get, and we ended up like filming around the clock. It felt like. For the conference, and it was with our phone and a little dinky Amazon mic, and it worked great. I mean, like the audio on this Blue Yeti is way better, and we've got the whole setup on Riverside and everything with this, but it was in person, and I think that adds a really cool variable. But like it doesn't need to be fancy. It was a $10 tripod, my phone, and an Amazon mic. That's it. One Amazon mic.
Yeah, and that might be the biggest takeaway from month 1 is the just start concept. Where, and we were talking about that when we did it, is who really cares what we do? Let's just do it, and let's get something out there and do these episodes. Because for a while, like we were saying earlier on in this episode, we spent a while trying to figure out, okay, what are we actually going to launch and monetize, and trying to get that perfect. Which just took too much time. So we realized, we just got to start putting something out there. What's like the quickest and easiest thing we can get out there? And then we didn't have the best equipment at the event, but we were able to scrap it together and get this the footage that we needed to actually get the first few episodes live. And then and I think one thing to transition from there on that note, let's talk about the Brits And because I think that's the Just Start concept is kind of in that. So tell everyone first, like kind of who she is, what the thought process was, how we got her on as a guest, and let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so we definitely have like a high roller, like VIP guest that she'll be our 8th episode that we'll release. Ideally, we might need to sneak one in there in between because we're going to edit it a little bit. But Brittany Arneson, so she has like 400 to 500,000 followers on Instagram. She's really, really big on Instagram. She has a huge real estate portfolio. She started out with like single family homes, and then she went to duplexes, and she's done flex space. She's done industrial. Like she's big time, especially in the real estate world. Anybody that's even kind of touched real estate a little bit, I'm sure has seen some of her posts on Instagram, or maybe she's been on Bigger Pockets or whatever. She's big time. So she's at all these conferences because she partners with AJ Osborne, who is like the self-storage guy, and he puts on this whole conference. So she's always there. And we got her on the episode, and it was really just because we asked. It was a Hail Mary pitch. It helped that a friend of ours is a friend of hers, and they were like chatting at the table that we were at, and we were in the middle of recording all these episodes. And so I threw it out there. I'm like, hey, we've got this thing going. I know you're busy. I'm sure you're asked all the time about different podcasts, but we're here. We're recording like just down the hall. Do you have like 10 minutes? Because we'd love to talk to you. That would be awesome. And she's super nice. She was willing. We got it all set up, and I think I was sweating profusely just because she's like a rock star in the real estate world, and we got her on. But it was because I just asked, and that's really, to the point of what John was saying. Like you just have to start. You also just have to ask. You just have to ask, and don't be afraid to ask. What's the worst that they can say is no, and then cool, no, not a problem. But she was super cool, and so we're now, fully transparent. We're like, okay, we have this big time guest, this episode. How do we leverage this episode the most that we can, right? Like, what do we do to gain as many followers or subscribers or whatever as we can from this episode? And so now we're trying to figure out what to do,
Yeah, that's right. Because that episode, ideally, we're going to launch in maybe 2 weeks. Like we said, maybe we'll buy 1 more week and do it in 3 weeks. But yeah, so we're figuring that out because we do want to release that and see what kind of traction we can get from it. But yeah, to sum that up, it's really just ask. And we easily could have not asked and not got the episode. But you were there, you took the shot, and then we got it. And then also we sort of minimized the time after that. It was once we got the yes, we were basically like, should we do this now? And we got the episode done. So yeah.
Sorry, pause for a second.
Yeah.
Sorry, girls.
We could wrap up here.
Probably like 5 minutes. That's it. Yeah.
Your truck is blocking the driveway.
Okay, I'll move it. Okay. Hey, baby. My oldest just got home from school.
No problem. Yeah, we went for because we prepped for a while. I think we're at 44 minutes.
Yeah.
We can close it out.
Let's
maybe let's just.
Almost done, baby girl. Almost done. So I'm trying to think. So we pretty much covered everything. We could say talk about tools and tech, like what we're using, if we like that, and then like what's a good way to wrap it up.
Yeah. Let's see. So we could quickly do tools and techs that we're trying out to script Riverside for filming these things. We didn't like the Squadcast feature, so we're trying Riverside out right now. Yeah, then how do we wrap this? I guess we just say like...
all right, we, that was... We were kind of rambling on about that, but like this is... We'll get better at our debrief. This is what we're doing. Things are working so far. We're gaining viewers, traction, whatever. Where do we want to push people?
Yeah, maybe we pitch that. Maybe we pitch the business templates thing of like. But we don't really. I mean, we could just throw people to your newsletter on this one, maybe.
just to get them,
Yeah. It's just,
And we could even say that, like, hey, like John and I are like, I have a newsletter, and then we have that I write about weekly about all this stuff. We also have one right now for Start by Scale that we're
working on. Or
let's just push people to mine, and then
I should do that.
and then we can talk about that later.
I think
And
that's
we'll
fine.
say that we'll put together a template. What was the template that you were saying?
Oh, the Looker Studio.
Yeah.
We'll do something with that.
Okay. Here.
Cool. So let's talk about tools and tech quickly. So kind of the tools we have set up, what we're trying out, and all of that. So what's your thoughts so far, Kevin, on kind of what we're using?
Yeah. This is definitely one of those things that not everybody talks about either, because it's like you kind of have to play around with these tools. So we're recording this on Riverside right now, and this is the first time that we've recorded on Riverside for one of our episodes. We were recording with Squadcast because Squadcast is connected to Descript, which we use to edit and publish from, which is great, but Squadcast is not great. So we were thinking maybe we would have to use Zoom, which is not a bad method at all. There's a lot of people that use Zoom, and then those files get saved, they import it into Descript, and they edit it that way. But we also have this Riverside account, and it kind of edits it a little bit for you and cuts it up. So, I mean, if we like Riverside and we keep that going, and then we can pair that with Descript, that would be good. But Squadcast, I do not recommend, not even in the slightest.
Yeah, and we just couldn't figure out, like, Riverside was just way easier, way more efficient for us, and maybe there's a way to make Squadcast work, but we just couldn't. It was taking too much time and effort to try to get it right. So ideally, we wanted to use it because Descript we actually really like. It's been making it really easy to edit for us. Because again, we're not going to have an editor for a little while. We're kind of doing this ourselves. One, so we can learn and actually get better at it, so that when we bring somebody in, we're in a better position to do that. But also to keep things efficient and light. So yeah, it's really tool-wise the main thing, and then just the social media platforms. We don't have a big tool stack yet.
Right.
And yeah, we'll see what else we get here. But
yeah,
let's maybe wrap this up. And what's your overall thoughts on kind of what we've done so far and next steps that we have coming up?
Yeah, I just love creating this with you, and I'm so passionate about entrepreneurship and business and learning from all these other entrepreneurs and these experts, so that, you know, like personally I can grow and be better and do better. But then I want to share this with everybody, because I think entrepreneurship is a team sport, and it's often lonely, and people feel like it's a solo thing. And, you know, the solo entrepreneur, the solopreneur is a big thing right now, because you can do so much virtually and just anywhere at any time. But in general, I think entrepreneurship is a team sport. You know, they say, like, to go fast, you go alone, and to go far, you go together. And so that's what we want to do. We want to share all of this, like, as transparent as possible. And, you know, that comes down to even these monthly debriefs. We're building this, and we're figuring this out in public, and we know we're not the only people that are doing this. And so if the process of which we're doing it can help somebody else get there faster, that would be awesome. That's the goal.
Yeah. And I think this is going to help get some of this information out, but also it helps us be better. So we're learning and growing in real time as we're trying to get better at producing these and getting really good information out there. So that'll be the goal coming up, to keep getting a little bit better each time. Now, Kevin has a newsletter, and I think this is a good segue. We'll close with this, because I think that's the best way for people to kind of stay in touch and get some information from us while we continue to build some things out. So what do you have? Where do people get that, and what's kind of going on with your newsletter?
Yeah, we'll drop the link in the comments of this video and this episode. The newsletter is called Sunday Donuts, and you can get that on my Twitter page, I have that as an item right on my main profile. Kevin as RX. Glitching, major.
It completely froze up there.
Yeah,
Can you hear me now? Of course, right.
I can hear you. Yeah, there we go. Okay, should we try that one again?
Yeah, maybe just start right from the top
From your
for
cue.
introducing the newsletter. I'll edit it at like the end of my sentence.
Okay. Yeah, I have a newsletter. It's called Sunday Donuts, and I write about entrepreneurship, how to start a business, how to buy a business, how to scale a business, and so to get that, we'll put a link in the comments of this video and this episode. If you want, you can access that from my Twitter profile. So twitter.com/Kevin as RX. That's Kevin ASRX. And so I have that in my profile if you want to subscribe that way.
Awesome. And we'll have a new episode up later this week, which will actually be a good one. I think it's going to be Michael's episode, so you guys will see that soon. But awesome. First debrief done.
Yeah.